All right, so here's part two of the percent proportions. And in this portion, we're going to focus on simple interest. Now, simple interest is basically the way that we make money when you are investing in any sort of thing. If you put money into a bank, every so often you get interest. And so that's a percentage of how much money you put in the bank. Same thing when you invest in a company. If you invest in a company, every so often that company will pay you interest. And so, as they, for simple interest, it's going to be based on that principal or the amount that you gave them every time. So, what you essentially do is if you want to know how much money you're supposed to make from simple interest, you would find out how much you're getting paid from the interest and then multiply it by the time frame that's set. In most of our problems, we're talking about years. And so we'll practice that a few times in the same format as in part one. So the example says Miss White invests $2,000 in a savings plan. The savings account pays an annual interest rate of 5.75% on the amount she put in at the end of each year. How much will be in her savings plan at the end of 10 years? So again, because this is not compounding interest, it's simple interest, all we have to do is find the percentage of 2,000, 5.75% of 2,000, and then multiply that by 10. Since we've been doing percent proportions already, we're going to keep using the same formula, which says is over of equals percent over 100. And so if that's true, we need to identify the things that should go on the formula. Well, we need to know what the interest is going to be, which is already 5.75%. So 5.75 goes in the percent space. We know the 100 already. So the question is what to do with this $2,000. Now, you're getting paid interest on the investment. So it's going to be 5.75% of 2,000. So that means that the 2,000 is the original amount. So the original amount is $2,000. And then our interest, which is our percentage, is 5.75%. It's always important to write down the given information. So the original amount is $2,000. So that goes in the of spot or the original spot. You do the same thing. So the only thing left is what is 5.75%. And so since we don't know what is 5.75% of 2,000, then X goes in the is spot. So once you do that, it's just like every other problem that we've done so far. We're going to cross multiply 2,000 by 5.75. And then we're going to take that answer and divide it by 100. And when you do that calculation, you'll find that they were going to get paid $11.50 per year. Now, if she's making $11.50 per year, then it becomes important that we pay attention to that because we have not dealt with this 10 years as yet. So really what we should have done was at the beginning of the problem, we should have said how much will be in her savings plan at the end of 10 years. Well, that's a more complex problem because first we have to find out how much interest she's making over 10 years, which means that we also have to multiply by 10 years, $11.50 a year times 10 years, and that would be $115. So far, that means that she made $115. But that still doesn't answer our question because, yes, she makes $115 in 10 years. But the question says how much will be in her savings plan. So with the entire plan, that is the $2,000 that she originally put in and the interest, the $115. So that means we need to add the $2,000 to find out how much she's going to make from her entire interest and from the investment plan. So we have to add the 115 plus the 2,000, and that will be $2,115. So her total amount in her savings plan at the end of 10 years will be $2,115 based on a simple interest formula. This is a brand new concept, so go over this problem a few times before you move on. Study through it, see why we plugged all the numbers in, and then move on to the next one, where I'll give you the answer, and then you can be sure that you calculated it the same way. So again, for this one, the final answer would be the $115 in interest plus the original $2,000 to be $2,115 in her account at the end of 10 years. Let's go ahead and take a look at 4B. So in 4B, Ms. White this time invests $12,000 into the savings plan. The savings account pays an annual interest rate of still 5.75% on the amount she put in at the end of each year. How much will be in her savings plan at the end of 10 years again? So this is the same process. So set it up the same way we did last time. But remember, after you find the interest for 1 year, you have to multiply that amount by 10 years. And then that amount you need to add back to the original amount. And that should give you a total of $18,900. So if you go through that process and you got $18,900, you did it right. So why don't you pause the video here, try it for yourself, and then press play when you've done it if you've gotten $18,900. And if you didn't get it right, then look along and pay very close attention so you can get it right and find out what you did wrong. All right, so we need to come up with $18,900. Well, how will we do that? Well, the first thing we should do again is write out the amount that she started with. So originally, she started off with $12,000 in this account. But then she got interest of 5.75%. And the question is, how much will be in her savings at the end of 10 years? So savings at 10 years is unknown. And it's important, we didn't do this the first time, but it's important that we write out the given information, especially when you're doing work on a computer, or just to ensure that you have everything that you were given and everything that you need. Now, how do we solve the problem? The first thing we do is find out how much interest you would get for 1 year. So that's the same formula, is over of equals the percent over 100. We know automatically that the 100 will go here. We know that she's getting paid 5.75% per year, and the interest is being paid as a percentage of the $12,000. So $12,000 is the original, or the of. And so what we're looking for is how much is 5.75% of $12,000, which would have been 100% initially. So to solve this, again, we're going to multiply 12,000 by 5.75. When we multiply 12,000 by 5.75 and then divide that by 100 times 5.75 and then divide it by the final number, which is 100, our final answer should be $690. So she's going to get $690 per year. But because this is going to occur for 10 years, we're going to multiply that by 10 to find out how much she makes in 10 years. And 690 times 10 is just 6,000 $900 for 10 years, but she started off with $12,000. So we have to add that back, and we add that all together. You end up with $18,900. So that's your process. Find out the interest for 1 year, multiply it by the number of years that they asked for, which in this case was 10, and then add that amount to the original amount to know how much will be in the savings account. All right. So for C is the same process. Read through the problem again, find out what the original amount was, identify how much she's getting paid in interest, and calculate how much will be in her savings plan at the end of 10 years. You're going to do this one on your own, and this is the one that's going to be graded for accuracy. So now we are going to work backwards in a sense. So this time we're getting a percentage from commission. So in this scenario, Ruben sells electronics. He earns a 5% commission on each sale he makes. If Ruben wants to make $100 in commission, what is the dollar amount of electronics that he must sell? Well, in this case, like I said, we're working backwards. And so I want to know what number would I need to take 5% of to get 100. So in other words, my thought process is $100 is 5% of what number? So $100 is 5% of what number? What number would I need to sell? How much money would I need to have raised so that when I get 5%, I'll end up with $100? So this actually makes it a little easier to say it this way, because when I say 100 is, if I go back to my formula, is over of equals the percent over 100, then I can say 100 is, that means I already know that the 100 must go in the is spot. So 100 is 5% of what, or the what, I don't know. So that's an X, and so my 100 is obviously here. So 100 is 5% of what number? We're going to solve it like we've done every other time. We're going to cross multiply 100 by 100. And then we're going to divide that by 5. And when I do 100 times 100 divided by 5, I end up with $2,000. So what that means is, since 100 is 5% of $2,000, then Ruben would need to sell $2,000 worth of products in order to make a $100 commission. Pretty useful information to have if you're in sales, and so that's the process. All right, so let's try it again. So this time we have Ruben needing to sell, he wants to make a $500 commission, but he's going to earn 15% this time. So we want to identify how much he's going to have to sell in order to make that $500 commission. So I want you to go through the same process that you did last time. Make sure you read the problem, write out the original statement like we did last time, and then solve it. And if you did it correctly, you should have gotten $3,333.33. Somewhere about there. So try that out, see if you get it, and if not, then let's pay attention to the details and make sure we do it right. Okay, so again, we're looking for a $500 commission, 15% of what number? So we're going to say $500 is 15% of what number, of question mark. You can say of what or of question mark, same thing. So I'm going to say is over of equals percent over 100. So my 100 is obvious. 15% is also obvious. So I'm only choosing really between the 500, is it an is or of? But because it says 500 is, then 500 is. And I'm looking for the amount that I need to sell. So 500 is 15% of what number? So we solve it now. 500 times 100 divided by 15. And so when I do 500 times 100 divided by 15, I indeed get, let's write it out, 500 times 100 divided by 15, and we do get $3,333.33. So if I took 15% of $3,333, I'll get about $500. And so that's our process to know that Ruben, in this case, because he earns a 15% commission, needs to sell about $3,300 worth of products to make his $500. All right. So in 5C, now Ruben earns a 20% commission, and he wants to make a $100 commission. I want you to go ahead and try this for yourself and find out how much he would need to sell in electronics to make his $100. So again, this is the one that will be checked for accuracy because you have two other examples that you can use to confirm that your process is accurate and that it makes sense. So I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out.